It's February 19th, 1909, and the audience at New York's Metropolitan Opera is ecstatic. The final notes of The Battered Bride have just died away. It's the first time a work by Bedřich Smetana has ever been performed in America. That alone is an unforgettable success for the Czech nation, which at that time still lived within the Austro-Hungarian Empire. But it doesn't end there. The leading role of Mařenka was brilliantly sung by Emmy Destinn, by then already a world-renowned artist whom 12 years earlier the director of the Prague National Theatre had rejected, complaining that she became too agitated when singing and in fact had no voice at all. The enthusiastic audience at the Metropolitan Opera, one of the most prestigious stages in the world, had a very different opinion. Emily Paulina Jindřiška-Kytlová was born on February 26, 1878. Her mother had operatic ambitions when she was young, but raising 5 children became a full-time job. Emmy's father, Emanuel Kytl, was a mining entrepreneur. The family lived comfortably in Prague and supported Emmy's obvious musical talent from an early age. At 13, her father arranged lessons with Marie-Lové Destin, a once famous singer of the Vienna Court Opera. She immediately recognized her pupil's great talent and over the next 5 years helped the often very stubborn girl perfect her soprano. In 1894, Emmy also began attending the National Theatre's drama school, where she was taught, for example, by the famous actress Otýlie Sklenářová-Malá.
Já bych chtěla psát divadlo, ale taky dřu 7 hodin denně na housle. A taky bych chtěla zpívat. Moje učitelka paní Destinová tvrdí, že mám talent. Sním o tom, že bych mohla zpívat Mařenku v Prodané. Není to dilema?
Emmy gradually begins to make her mark, yet she also deals with ordinary girlish worries. She falls in love for the first time with the cycling champion Jindřich Vodílek, but he soon leaves her. Her temperament isn't easy to endure, and although in the years ahead Emmy will have no shortage of male attention, true love will elude her throughout her life. Emmy is now 19 and faces her first real test. She sings 2 arias from Carmen for the director of the National Theatre, František Adolf Schubert, but he bluntly informs her that the doors in Prague are closed to her. The young singer tries her luck in Dresden. In the end, however, she succeeds only in Berlin, where she makes her debut as Santuzza in Mascagni's one-act Cavalleria Rusticana. And thanks to the unprecedented success, the Berlin Court Opera promptly offers her a 5-year contract, sealed by Kaiser Wilhelm II himself. Emmy changes her surname to Destinn in honor of her teacher, and over the next 10 years she sings 43 roles in various languages. She appears on the Berlin stage more than 700 times in operas such as Mignon and Aida, as well as in The Battered Bride and Dalibor, productions she herself helped bring to Germany. It doesn't take long for her to become a star. Soon, other famed opera houses invite her as a guest. She performs in Paris and Vienna, and in 1901 she finally, after years of slights, appears on the stage of the Prague National Theatre. There she debuts symbolically in the role of Carmen, the part with which she once failed her audition. A truly phenomenal success follows in 1904, when the English invite her for the first time to London's Royal Opera House at Covent Garden. There she meets the legendary tenor Enrico Caruso, and in the following season, she shines alongside him in the London premiere of Puccini's opera Madama Butterfly. Caruso falls in love with her almost immediately. She isn't a typical opera singer like the dozens he knows. Not only does she have extraordinary talent, but she also stands out because of her nature. She is, for example, devoted to spiritualism and has a snake tattooed on her leg. Above all, she always keeps perspective. And, unlike other theatrical actresses, is genuine and absolutely sincere. But she rejects Caruso. He isn't her type. And moreover, she has a patriotic resolution. If she ever marries, it will be only a Czech. Even so, they remain good friends. Moving on to 1908, Emmy is 30 years old and an undeniable star of the first rank. After performances, she's showered with flowers and major houses vie for her. But when an offer arrives from New York's Metropolitan Opera, it means success of a completely new order even for her. She first appears in New York as Aida, once again alongside Enrico Caruso. Under the baton of the renowned conductor Arturo Toscanini, they thrill a sold-out audience of nearly 4,000 people. Her very greatest triumph, however, comes a quarter of a year later. It was well known that Emmy was a great patriot, and that despite years spent abroad, the Czech lands were her beloved home. Therefore, no one was surprised that her dream was to present the Czech National Opera, The Bartered Bride, at the Metropolitan Opera. This dream came true in February 1909, made all the sweeter by the fact that the performance was conducted by the genius composer Gustav Mahler, born in the Czech lands. And although the opera was presented in a German translation, the premiere became an event of enormous significance for Czechs both across the ocean and at home in Europe. Eight years pass, during which Emmy regularly charms American audiences. But while culture flourishes in the United States, Europe is torn apart by World War I. All her friends urge her to stay safe in New York. She decides to return, and what's more, with a secret message for the anti-Austrian resistance, despite already being in the sights of the Imperial Royal Police. At that time, anyone traveling across the ocean was automatically considered suspicious, and Emmy had never hidden her Czech patriotism. Exactly what happened then remains unknown to this day. She herself modestly kept silent about her actions even after the war, which only fueled speculation. Some even claim that the dispatch was written in invisible ink on her dress. More likely is that she memorized the message. After all, she was accustomed to learning dozens of librettos in various languages by heart. As for her return from the United States, the police had orders to detain her at the border and charge her with espionage, a crime that carried the death penalty at the time. So she hastened the last part of her journey and arrived on an earlier train. When the evening train reached the border a few hours later, the police searched the carriages in vain. By that time, Emmy was already in Prague, her mission accomplished. However, she could not, of course, prevent the police from finding her in the days that followed. Ultimately, she escapes punishment, allegedly thanks to the Emperor's intercession, for he was fond of her. From that point on, however, she is under permanent surveillance. The police confiscate her passport and order her to remain in Bohemia. Emmy is de facto under house arrest at her little castle in Stráž nad Nežárkou. There she collects antiques, goes fishing, writes a novel titled In the Shadow of the Blue Rose, and renovates her residence. It may look idyllic, but it is not. She misses the operatic world and the life she was used to. With no possibility to perform, her funds soon begin to dwindle. She noticeably gains weight, and more than ever, realizes how lonely she truly is. She described it exactly in an earlier letter to the family friend Bedřich Spurný. I am such a wretched creature, whom few have caressed, few have kissed, and who has always so thirsted for pure, sincere, and unselfish love. Before the end of the war, Emmy is allowed to return to the stage of the National Theatre. And while the nation absolutely adores her even after her hiatus, the world stages have found new, younger sopranos during her absence. Although Emmy continues to give concerts, few are keen to cast her in operas. After all, she herself used to say there is nothing worse than having to look at an old woman on the stage. She now begins to take stock And fearing that she has missed something, in 1923 she marries Czechoslovak Air Force First Lieutenant Josef Halsbach. She is 45, he is 20 years younger. And although she truly loves him, their marriage will not be very happy. The age difference complicates the relationship, and moreover, Halsbach begins to spend her savings. As a result, Emmy must start selling off her beloved collection of antiques. On January 28, 1930, the 51-year-old Emmy Destinn is to undergo eye surgery in a private practice in České Budějovice. During the procedure, however, she suffers a stroke, and her condition is critical. Although the doctor has her transported to a hospital immediately, it is already too late. Thus, the Czech nation loses an extraordinary woman, an artist who, amid overwhelming competition, established herself as one of the finest opera singers of her time and, with her temperament, enchanted audiences around the world. A fighter who never gave up and never allowed global success to change her character or values. And finally, a patriot who unconditionally loved her country. That all was Emmy Destinn.